Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Velocity 360 tutorial series. In this series, we're going to do a quick intro to web scraping, and we're going to scrape a website and get some data out of it, and then format that data into a more usable structure so that we can use it in other applications. So this is going to be a purely back-end tutorial. There's going to be no React. It's going to be all Node and Express, and maybe some Mongo if we get to the storing of the data. So if you're looking for React tutorials, try some of our other series, but this is going to be purely Node and Express and web scraping using the back end for that. So let's get started. So let's say I'm working on an app that needs some data, but it's hard to find that data in a structured form. So for example, let's say I want to get scores for a basketball game every day, and I want to take those scores and insert them into my database. So normally what you want to do is find an API that'll return those scores to you in a JSON format, and then you're all set to go. It's just from there, it's just regular data manipulation. But sometimes it's hard to find these API sources, or sometimes when you do find them, they cost a lot of money. So there's no real easy way to get the data. So in this case, the next alternative is typically web scraping. So let's say I want to find the NBA scores every day after the games are played. So one thing I can do is go to basketballreference.com. Oops, I'm on baseball reference. Basketball reference. So then here we click on scores. If I click on that, you'll see that they just list all the scores from the previous night, and then you can toggle. You can go to different days. And if you look at the URL, you can pick up the URL pattern. So what we can do is go onto this website via the backend and then grab all of this HTML right here and simply pull out the pieces of information that we want. In this case, most notably the scores, and that's called scraping. That's literally what scraping is. So this is another way you can grab the data. Scraping, though, is considered a difficult technique to grab the data because oftentimes the websites change. It's not the formatting is not consistent. It's very hard to find good sources of reliable data through scraping. So you want to be judicious about what data source you select. So for example, you could also get these scores on ESPN. But in my experience with ESPN, I find that they redesign their site on a rather frequent basis, a couple times a year maybe. It's not I mean they don't do like a major redesign a couple times every year, but they might change the structure. They might put this over on the right side. They might I don't know. They might remove one of these columns. Sometimes they have these players to watch down here, so they mix it up a lot. So you want to find a good, reliable source, and in this case, Basketball Reference is pretty good because this is consistent. They don't really change this too much from time to time. So this is a good source of data. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our project, and then query this site for these box scores. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's my terminal. Let's cd to the desktop. Let's create a new project called NBA Scores. cd into NBA Scores. Run the install. I am assuming some knowledge here. I'm moving a little bit faster than total beginner pace. If I'm doing stuff you don't understand whatsoever, then you want to go to this tutorial right here, Node Express Intro, where I cover all the steps and I actually explain what every single step is doing. So this is a good course, a good tutorial series to get the real basics down. But in this one, I'm moving a little bit faster, assuming you understand what we just did right here. Okay, so let's install SuperAgent to make the API requests or the web requests. And then let's install a module called Cheerio, which will help us with the scraping. It'll organize the HTML into objects that we can scrape. Great. Let's cd into the routes, create a scrape.js route. And let's get started. Okay, here is the scrape route that we just created. Like I said, I'm going to move a little bit faster. I'm going to copy and paste from the user's route that the scaffolding gave us for free. And I'm going to just get rid of the semicolons. If you can't type all this from scratch, then I recommend you do that. Like I said, I'm assuming some knowledge here, so suffice to say, I could just type all this from scratch, but I want to get to the business logic as quickly as possible. Okay, this will be it for now. And then let's hook up the route. So instead of the user's route, let's replace it with the scrape route. Okay, let's give it a run. Okay, swing over to localhost, and then it's running, so we're good to go. So now let's, oh wait, I forgot to test the route, sorry. There, now we're good to go, because we saw this JSON. So now that we've confirmed that, let's go ahead and make a request to the basketballreference.com site. So we're going to need SuperAgent for this. And then we want to grab the URL from Basketball Reference. So if you've never been on the site before, you want to go to basketball-reference.com and then click on Scores, and then pick from the drop-down menu, pick any other day than the most recent one. Pick any other past date. Excuse me. And then click Find Games. The reason I said that is because then the URL gives you the query parameters that we're going to need. So let's go ahead and use that as our demo path reference. Okay, so let's make a request to this site. Okay, some basic error handling there, and then let's just send it back the response, which comes in a key called text. And then we want to pass in the URL. And we want to package these inside of a query object. Okay, just like that, and then pass that into the query right here. Okay, good. So let's give it a run. So fire up your server. And beautiful. Now we see the scores. Oh no, I picked the one game they didn't play games. One day they didn't play games. So that's a pretty bad coincidence. Let's try the 18th. Oh, All-Star break, that's why. Let's try February 2nd. There we go. Okay. Here we go. So now we're looking at the scores, but notice the URL. This is coming from my local host. It's very important to recognize that what we're doing is from the server. From our server, we're making a request to their server. And then we're grabbing the data right here, and then we're sending that right back out to the client side, to us, the browser. So it worked. That means we have the data that we need. So now that we have that right here, this is the actual HTML. What we want to do is scrape this content. So in the next video, we're going to set up the scraper, and we're going to parse through all this HTML to grab these games and distinguish the winners from the losers. So in the next video, we'll get that going. So stay tuned for that. Thanks.